Moving on to the markets now, the Nigerian stock market all-share index rose 0.95% today to 38,334, extending the recent streak of gains to an eighth straight day, where volumes were lifted by First Bank of Nigeria Holdings, Transcorp again, or Access Bank and UBA. Well, some of the gainers on the day were Nigerian breweries, Julius Berger, Forte All and MRS, while the losers pack included Berger Paints, Portland, Unilever and Ashaka Cement. Now, for more on the activities on the bourse, I'm now being joined by Rele Adeshina. She's the head of research at Stanbic IBTC Bank. Thanks, Rele, for joining us. Nice to have you on the program.
Thanks, Esther.
Well, let's just take a look at some of the market indicators. Now, we've seen 8 straight days of uninterrupted gains at the market, but the rally hasn't exactly been a strong one. We've seen volumes and even values still remaining quite depressed. But do you think that with the release of these results, and most of them which are largely positive, do you think this trend, we might see an improvement as we look forward to more results perhaps tomorrow?
Well, I think let's not forget that this time of the year, typically we always expect volumes to drop somewhat because both domestically and internationally, we've entered into holiday season. So it always tends to be a bit of a slower period. I think in that context, $19 million for today is not too bad. I think that, of course, we had a fairly sharp sell-off in the market during the course of June. And, I think there's some level of comfort that investors are taking from I think a softer tone out of the US on QE and tapering, and to be honest, things being as they are in Egypt also makes that destination less appealing. So we've seen some kind of incremental and sustained interest in the Nigerian market. I guess if results continue to sort of be robust as we go through results season, it will be supportive of that.
Okay, well, let's quickly get your thoughts on the Sterling Bank of unaudited second quarter results released today, a 97% climb in profit after tax. Now, did that match up to what your expectations were?
We actually don't cover Sterling Bank, so we don't have forecasts on that bank or price targets. But I mean, just having a quick look at the numbers, obviously as a smaller sized bank in this environment, the results are somewhat encouraging. I mean, I think that they still have a relatively high cost of funds from our estimation. But being in an environment where the yields on T-bills are also more robust than perhaps we thought they might be, perhaps this bodes well for results in the sector, particularly for the larger banks. I mean, as I say, it's not a bank that we keep a model on, but I think that it's an encouraging indicator for a smaller sized bank to have delivered such a strong set of numbers.
Now, there seems to be a sudden interest in petroleum market in stocks. I've been looking at Forte Oil, Owando, and today MRS joins the pack. They've been moving up in the last 2-3 sessions or so. Remember that Forte Oil, first and second quarter, the numbers in terms of return, year-to-date return, were quite positive. Anything we should be aware of?
Well, I think, to be quite frank, the activity on those stocks would have been on very thin volumes. We looked at the market today, the overall, as I say, the market traded 19 million. 15 of that was in the kind of top 10 stocks, usual suspects, and half of it was in banks, mostly tier 1 banks. So I think that, in a context of relatively thin volumes, we perhaps see, an elevated kind of impact on the performance of those stocks as a result of the numbers that have come out. I don't think that there's necessarily a sea change in investor support for that sector, in particular.
Now, as this lackluster attitude of the market continues, even though the expectations have been building up ahead of the earnings season, what do you think could be a major catalyst to bring some spice into the market?
I think that it still comes down to the large cap names, because those are the names that will have where we see interest both from domestic and offshore investors. I think that at the end of the day, the Nigerian market, for an offshore investor, is still a relatively small market for the most part, and if they decide to deploy a little bit more cash on account of more encouraging numbers, it will make a rather big difference. So I think that if we see particularly strong results from the banks, particularly if the tier 2 banks fare better than would suggest which should be the case, then the bid that we're seeing on the likes of FBN and Zenith and GT, and even Access and UBA may well may well continue as we move through the summer and into September.
Is that your outlook for bank stocks bank earnings going forward?
Well, bank earnings, I think that we started the year somewhat cautious because we expected, a fall in yields. We expected a squeeze on NIMs, but I think we're seeing, we're kind of more inclined towards the larger banks that have liquidity. The fact that that the T-bill yields have held up a little bit more robustly than we thought at the start is positive. And I think for names like FBN that still have scope to improve efficiency and reduce their cost-to-income ratio, I think that they may also disproportionately benefit. So we're constructive on the sector, particularly on the larger names and names that have gains to be made on the efficiency front.
The Nigerian All-Share Index obviously still on an upward trend. We saw the market capitalization hitting 12 trillion naira yesterday. Now, your outlook going forward for direction for the index?
Well, I think that in the absence of news flow, if there's no negative news flow on a top-down basis, i.e., and based on the testimony that we saw from Bernanke yesterday, I think he still seems somewhat conservative. He's still looking to see more robust improvements in some of the economic indicators overall before there's any sharp action taken. So I think that providing that there's no real negative news flow from a bottom-up point of view in Nigeria, I think that the market will stay stable to drift higher, over the summer, and then we could see some momentum come the autumn when everybody comes back from holiday and is looking to kind of take positions through to the year end. So we're constructive still on the market, but we recommend that investors stick to quality names.